Greetings, ladies and gentlemen, it is I am the one and only Ray the Flying Squirrel here, and I'm Mighty the Armadillo here, welcome you all back for the likes of the Mexi Toys videos once again. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back for some more of Let's Play of Super Mario All-Stars for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System, or SNES for short, alongside with the Nintendo Wii, and finally the Nintendo Switch due to the forms of the NSO online services and stuff like that. So, remember how during the forms of earlier on today, that we did manage able to finish up with Super Mario Bros. 3 by experiencing the final world in Super Mario Bros. 3, which appears to be by the forms of Dark Land, or to be more specifically, Valley of Bowser or something like that. So either way though, because chances are though, we essentially did manage to accomplish that no problem. And truth be told, once again, I basically dominated throughout the entire game, obviously, for the likes of Super Mario Bros. 3's case. So today, this will be the ending conclusion video for the likes of our Let's Play of Super Mario All-Stars. Now, as far as any other things we'd like to show to you guys, and that is about the fact that, well, as soon as you're able to go back to the other games, basically you can now able to activate the level select screen. So because of that though, you simply just have to able to complete the main game first, or generally speaking, it doesn't really matter what world you go into as far as I'm aware, and basically you can able to replay all those levels again with all these lives reset itself. So because of that though, yeah, not much else to tell for this point, apart from the fact that I don't know what you're able to actually decide to delete everything, in terms of like, you know, file selections or anything else to be more specific, despite the fact that I think we do have the instruction booklet for it for the sake of the forms of the Wii version of the game, but as you can see, we've already 100% everything in terms of Super Mario All-Stars, and you simply able to actually just to get like, well, I don't think there's anything rewarding if you manage to get the 100% completion playthrough, where it comes to likely completing all those games combined into one, I'm assuming so anyway, so... And if you guys ever were able to actually got the Super Nintendo version of Super Mario All-Stars, you obviously get yourselves this really marvelous cartridge artwork. So because of that though, relatively speaking, that all it shows is just a Mario with a different outfit, and alongside with that, they also brings us into with the forms of 4 games shown up on the actual front cover, which I think is actually pretty cool looking too. And in addition to that though, there's also another edition of the game called Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World, or technically Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario World. And basically, you know how the fact that the original version of Super Mario All-Stars came out in 1993? Well, as it turns out that this particular version, as you can see on screen, it came out in 1994. So it's like a year later, I suppose. Which, I think that could be more accurately about the fact that if you guys who lived in the UK, that the original version of Super Mario All-Stars came out in 1994, if I recall, and then with the double pack, it obviously came out until 1995 in the UK version. Now, speaking of that particular UK version, as far as I'm aware, this is how the cartridge looks like if you managed to brought the Super Mario All-Stars and Super Mario World combo pack, which... I think to me that most people seem to prefer this particular compilation itself because not only does it contain the exactly the same games as before, but also it features one of the best 2D Mario games ever, which appears to be none other than, you know, Super Mario World. And speaking of such though, as you can see on this title screen, it plays pretty much exactly like the forms of how it does on the original version, except they now include Yoshi. And on top of that, certain NPCs or certain characters have been moved to different spots. Like, for instance, I believe the Spiny was actually moved to a different spot. So then as you can see on the file selection screen, you do now actually have ourselves 4 files this time around, as opposed to 3 files, unlike the forms of how it does in the original version of Super Mario World. In addition to that though, once you start the game off, there's actually a pretty cute touch where it comes to likely selecting a file, that basically Yoshi just winked his eye. So as a result though, that's actually a cute and adorable touch to it. And as you can see on the copyright thing, it now shows us 1990, 1991, and 1993, because obviously, as I said before, this particular version of Super Mario All-Stars, well, it plays pretty much exactly the same as the original version, except with this one little difference, and that's what appears to be none other than, as you can see on screen, is Luigi himself, because as you can see, the overall sprite of Luigi looks a lot different this time around, because normally he was originally going to be a green version of Mario, back in the forms of how it does in the original version of Super Mario World, but as you can see, they've now managed able to redesign him, so it makes it a little bit more of a different counterpart or something like that. So, relatively speaking, that's all there is to say when it comes to Luigi in the forms of Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World Edition, and the fact that his particular sprite, whenever you finish the level, plays a little bit differently. And this is what the comparison looks like between both Super Mario World alongside with Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World Double Pack. And let me tell you, I think I would personally prefer the Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World version of that Luigi sprite, because let me tell you, it does look pretty cool and pretty accurate at the same time. Although relatively speaking though, you might be able to find one of those references before New Super Luigi was a thing after all, because with the 30th anniversary in mind. Speaking of such though, is about the fact, as I mentioned this briefly, there's also the Super Mario All-Stars on the Nintendo Wii, which, as we said this countless amount of times already, this is obviously based off of the 25th anniversary of the Super Mario Bros. And as you can tell, not only does it come with the game itself, but also contains not only the soundtrack CD, but also the actual art book, or yeah, just an art book in general. So that way you can able to look upon certain stuff of how popular Mario came to be, and on top of that, as I said before, it contains the actual soundtrack CD, as you can see. However, it will not play it on the Wii console, but you can rather just try to able to play it on radio CD, or potentially speaking though, the Sega Dreamcast or the PlayStation 2 if you feel like it. So, when it comes to looking at the actual art book itself, it does look very, very cool, especially concerning about the fact that not only does it able to contain the past Mario's adventures with between, 2D and 3D games, but also it comes with not only the Japanese packaging of certain games, as you can see, but also it contains the European covers underneath it too. Which, I think, potentially speaking, if you couldn't tell, this is obviously based off from the UK version of this artwork, because I'm pretty sure the North American version only does have the North American box arts, if I recall, because I believe in the Japanese version, it obviously contains the Japanese packaging when it comes to certain Mario titles, as you can probably tell for that point. And in fact, no matter what though, I just love flicking through this, especially concerning about the fact that not only certain box arts do look a little bit differently, compared to the forms of how it does it on most regions, but also with a different disc artwork. For example, with Super Mario Galaxy's Japanese disc artwork looks spectacular to look at. And on top of that, the box art for Super Mario Galaxy 2 looks a lot different compared to the UK version. And on top of that, some concept arts here and there. And on top of that, some interviews and how the actual thing's gonna plays out to be. And overall, this is a pretty nice little way to able to look, just look at the forms of the entire Mario's past, especially concerning that, this particular thing comes during the forms of in 2010. So, relatively speaking, about the fact that the Wii version of Super Mario All-Stars came out in 2010, which that makes it a little bit more, obvious sense. Despite the fact that it's actually based off from the Super Nintendo game, so they managed able to put the Super Nintendo game and then slap onto the Wii disc. So as you can tell, on the front cover of the actual book, not only does it contain a whole bunch of Marios, but on the back, the final page of the book, basically it features a whole bunch of villains between Bowser and the Koopalings, and you name the rest. And also, as you can see on the back of the book, basically it tells you what certain music they actually contain, although they only contain 10 tracks during the forms of in the actual, the soundtrack lists, but it also contains some sound effects here and there as well, but it's just for bragging rights, I guess. So with that being said though, it will be a good alternative way if you actually miss out on the Super Nintendo at all, basically you can highly recommend the Wii version of Super Mario All-Stars if you missed out on the Super Nintendo days. But if you guys do own the Super Nintendo for a long period of time, and if you already own the Super Nintendo cartridge version of the game, either the standard version or with Super Mario World included, there's no right able to actually get the Wii version after all. Well, aside from the fact that, well, I already mentioned about this before, about the fact that you can also play this nowadays on the Wii U thanks to forms of the backwards compatibility, which, that's weird, that it never seemed to get a actual re-release as a digital download version of this game on the Wii U, but oh well, beggars else can be choosers, I guess. Thus, because the eShops are already closed ever since enjoying new forms within the past few days ago. Yeah, exactly, for surely. So with that being said though, let's give our final thoughts in terms of the forms of Super Mario All-Stars as far as this, how impressive this particular compilation turns out to be. Like, for instance, about the fact that I really do enjoy the presentation about this entire compilation, because obviously it's all updated and everything when it comes to 16-bit visuals, and also it makes the colors look a lot more vibrant and colorful. And on top of that, about the fact that they also managed able to make the music a lot more remade for the sake of the forms of 16-bit as well. And on top of that, the gameplay itself was basically unchanged compared to the forms of how it does it on the other versions of the actual, the past Mario games. But it does have some, the actual quality of life improvements, like, with the save system. And on top of that, there's no, limited amount of continues during the forms of it, not only for the sake of Super Mario Bros. 2, but also with the forms of, I would say, Super Mario Bros. As well. So, relatively speaking, though, about the fact of the matter is, though, at least this version is super generous. Especially compared to Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, that in the original version, it was pretty unfair on the original version. But at least on the Super Mario All-Stars, it was thankfully more forgiving, because obviously about the fact that not only with infinite amount of continues, but also every time you get a game over, it actually takes you back to the level where you came from, rather than just, starting all over for the beginning of the world. So, at the very least, it's super generous, Especially you can able to actually access to World A through D very easily by simply playing through the game once, and then bam, and transport you to World A, because still, it is incredibly ridiculous in the original version, because you have to replay the game 8 times in a row until you accessive to it. Like, seriously, whoever thought that was a good idea? Yeah, me neither. And on top of that, the controls is actually really, really good for me, though. Especially I'm now more accustomed to the forms of, pressing B to jump, and then pressing Y to dash, because that was actually the most comfortable factor about it. At least to me, anyway. Yeah, I was thinking about the same thing, because it makes the actual process a lot more easy to manage. And besides, about the fact that I sort of able to actually realize that Sonic did actually tell me for something. That he used to able to use the A button to jump and then press X to dash, but he doesn't do it anymore because he finds it a bit awkward to manage, at least for some degreement. So, with that being said though, and the story itself, it basically plays out exactly the same as the forms of the original versions of those games, aside from the fact that with some slight touches to the table, like, with certain cinematic scenes when if you rescue Princess Peach and stuff like that in Super Mario Bros. Alongside with Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, respectively. So, either way though, that might be seems the case. And, also, the gameplay in Super Mario All-Stars, I will say, it is so awesome. Especially because, you're able to experience all the classic Mario games into one package. Especially concerning this is obviously the Super Nintendo, after all. So meaning about the fact that they did manage to able to make the gameplay 10 times as awesome, especially concerning about the fact that, again, with the save system and all that stuff, if you manage to take a break on certain points throughout the game, then you obviously should able to recommend Super Mario All-Stars. But, I think that's as far as I can say about this for the most part, don't you think? Well, aside from the fact that, well, there's also, as I said before, about the fact that, well, you can technically hack the actual game onto the Nintendo Wii back in the day. Well, that was in the late 2000s until 2010. They managed able to finally got the game as in a physical format. So, but there was also the Nintendo Select version of the actual Super Mario All-Stars on the Wii, but it's only exclusive to North America, because I have no idea why they've never seemed able to get it in our country or in Japan's case, in this case, Super Mario Collection. So, but even then, with that being said though, I think that basically does it for the entire Super Mario All-Stars Let's Play. Because I'm sure enough, we did have a really great time able to actually go back into this game again. Especially after the events of, the Super Mario Bros. Movie just recently came out yesterday. And overall, we still enjoy it, even to this day. Especially concerning about the fact that recently on Amazon websites, they've now finally able to actually listed the film on not only on DVD, but there's also the Blu-ray version, and finally the 4K Ultra HD Blu-ray versions as well. And there's also the limited edition somewhere at Walmart in North America. Oh yeah, I think we'll let Tiana will explain more details about that when she goes back on to Kirby's Return to Dreamland Deluxe for sure. But yeah, I hope you guys do enjoy this particular playthrough, guys, and it certainly feels a bit more, a lot better than the forms of how it does it back in 2017 version, in my opinion. Because thankfully, with the much more improvement quality, and on top of that, we're used to with the 60Hz mode as opposed to 50Hz mode in some cases, because, trust me, what I'm saying is, do not recommend playing a game on 50Hz mode, because otherwise, not only because it grants you with the, let's just say, a floaty jump, but it's also about the fact that the actual movement feels a bit slightly sluggish and slow. But regardless of such though, the music still plays pretty fine, just like the forms of how it does it on the NTSC version, at least to me anyway. So, because besides, whoever needs the 50Hz mode back in the day, well, aside from the fact that with our UK versions of Mario Party games are the only exception to this, well, aside from the fact that, well, it's hard to explain honestly. So either way, yeah, that basically does it for Super Mario All-Stars, like I said before. Would I recommend it though? Absolutely, especially if you have your Super Nintendo. Obviously you can get this game either the standalone version or with the Super Mario World Combo Pack, which I think is more of a definitive version of the game personally, despite the fact that we've never actually got Super Mario All-Stars plus Super Mario World Combo Pack back in the day, which is a bit of a shame because that was actually the, the definitive way of playing Super Mario All-Stars in general. And on top of that, you can also get this on the Wii, or if you managed to able to actually access the Nintendo Switch Online services, there's now a way you can able to actually play this game on the forms of the Nintendo Switch. Because thankfully, unlike certain stuff, there's no limited time offering. So, at the very least, that's a good thing. So I highly recommend it. So this is me, Ray the Flying Squirrel, and I'm Mighty here from the likes of the Mexi Toys. And I think suffice to say, we might as well take a break from Mario for quite a while, because after all, we're about to be seeing the film again, entering at some point on Monday. So yeah, that'll be the double the fun. So we'll see you guys at some point soon. Bye. Ciao.